All right, welcome. Let's give it a few moments for everybody to hop on, and let's have an amazing session. Let me know if you can hear me and see me in the chat. Let's see here. Welcome, Aaron. Welcome, Jim. Beautiful. Give me 1 second. How's everybody's Monday? Mine's crazy as ever. Is it even Monday? Oh my gosh. Happy Monday. Welcome, Dwight. I am out of here on the 13th. So heading to the Philippines on the 13th. Super excited. Lots to do, though. Lots and lots to do. It's crazy, to say the least. All right. Looks like we got a solid crew here today. Beautiful. So let's do a quick disclaimer. Please know that nothing on this call is financial advice. Everything is for education purposes only. Do know trading does involve risk, and investing in crypto does involve risk. And if you do so, please do so at your own risk or consult with a qualified financial advisor. Beautiful. Cool. The aim of this call is to keep us informed on the total crypto market. So I'm going to be diving into some crypto news, diving into the technicals as well. If you guys have any questions, feel free to use the chats, and let's have an amazing session. But hopefully by the end of this call, we all have a decent idea of how the crypto market has been performing, where it could potentially be going, and setting up some scenarios that we can prepare for. That's the whole thing. We can't control the market, but if we can identify where the market is trending, the current landscape, we can start to make scenarios that we can prepare for. That's the whole goal. Traders and investors are not predictors of the markets. As much as we'd like to do that, we're having a thesis for both directions typically, and preparing for either one. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into some of the news here on the fundamental side, if I can find it. Hey, good day, John. Okay, I guess I can't. There it is. Okay, beautiful. Okay, let's talk about some news. So one thing I want to look at is the interest rate environment. So coming into October 20. Oh. Okay, perfect. Coming into I guess, a month from now is the next interest rate decision, and there's a pretty good probability that the interest rates right now are going to cut even further. Right now, they're sitting at 4.25 to 4%, and it looks like the Fed could be cutting them to about 4 to 3.75%, which is expansionary for the economy, so we can take that into consideration. However, if there is some sort of like economic collapse, etc., sometimes interest rate cuts don't cut it, pun intended. So we'll have to see there, but just know that lower interest rates typically means cheaper borrowing. Cheaper borrowing eventually typically leads to economic expansion. All right. Let's look at the economic calendar really quick, just get an idea of what we could be looking at this week. Today, nothing in the U.S. Tomorrow, we do have the JOLTS jobs openings. Last month, there was some pretty bad numbers, so Could these numbers be lower? It looks like the prior was 7.81 million. The forecast is 7.1. So potentially jobs getting lower and lower. On Wednesday, we have PMI, manufacturing PMI. And then Friday, we have the first Friday of the month. So turning into October, we have non-farm payrolls and unemployment. Non-farm payrolls is a pretty big market mover. Also, we're coming into October, and October has historically been a pretty bullish month for crypto. Let's see here. See if we can find this. Okay, here we go. Bitcoin monthly returns. This is actually a pretty good chart to have. It's on CoinGlass. I will post it in the chat. There she is. So what we can see here is we can see across the top, we can see the various months of the year, and then we can see the years, and we can see the performance of each year. Now, you know, some people can say whether or not this is relevant. It is a piece of data, so I think that can be, you know, helpful. But if we look at, say, September, back here, September, kind of a mixed month here. It looks like at the end of September, we actually had a green September, which is a little bit interesting. But you can see on average, it's more of a red month, September. But October is actually one of the most bullish months historically for Bitcoin. Sometimes people call it Uptober. So you can see like 10% in 2024, 28% in 2023, 39% in 2021, 60%. Wow, look at this November, 449% in 2013. That's crazy. And then November is historically pretty bullish. Also December, January starts to where it gets a little, you know, typically more of a bearish month. So we'll see if are we going to get that year-end holiday rally for crypto, or are we not? That is the question. Those are straight up on the month. So we'll see. I wouldn't bank on that kind of stuff. I think you know, this is just a very small piece of data. I think analysts kind of use this too heavily, but something to look at, especially October. This is one of the most bullish months in crypto historically. Okay. In other news, this is not too big of news, but potentially could this have an effect on the NFT market? Hyperliquid is a huge buzz right now. There's really the whole narrative in crypto right now is perpetual decentralized exchanges. So we'll kind of unpack that. Most people are familiar with decentralized exchanges, which are basically spot market exchanges where you just swap the token for the token. Decentralized perpetual exchanges or derivatives exchanges, you are actually swapping the contract instead of the token itself. So here you can take the market short, you can do leverage, and it gives the ability to have more complex trading strategies than spot. And Hyperliquid kind of spurred this, I believe, to where every chain is now trying to have their own unique decentralized perpetual exchange. So there's Hyperliquid, there's Aster, there's a bunch of them, but this is kind of the big narrative, and Hyperliquid has now created their own NFT project. And I'm curious if this is going to spur potentially the next NFT boom. It may or may not. We'll see. But essentially, early supporters of Hyperliquid get this high per NFT. And if you look over here, we can kind of see what they look like. They're just these photos of cats. And I guess 2 of these were sold for $460,000 each. And these were completely free, which is pretty crazy. Now, were these kind of more wash sales? Did the person just sell them to themselves? I don't know. I really don't know. Probably, but who knows? But a lot of this stuff can be done to increase those price floors. So could this be the next kind of like CryptoPunks, something that is very organic that becomes very powerful? We will have to see. So you can look and check out some hypers. If you're into the NFT space. In other news, this is really crazy in my opinion. I think especially XRP holders, they have been thinking about Swift a lot in cross-border payments. Swift handles the majority of the cross-border payments, at least from the US, I believe. So they do like $4 quadrillion in transactions a year. And it's a very good use case for crypto because you can settle crypto a lot easier than cash. So a lot of people have been speculating, is Swift, this cross-border payment platform, are they going to adopt blockchain? And it's been rumored that they are for a long time. And it looks like they have chosen Linea for blockchain testing, which is really crazy to think about. I don't know where Linea came from. You can see right here on the side. So could Linea be the blockchain that Swift uses, or is it just one blockchain that they're going to use out of many? I feel like that's more likely going to be the case, but definitely very interesting to see Linea to partner with Swift. So it looks like it is developed by Coinsys too. So Linea developed by Coinsys. Coinsys developed MetaMask. MetaMask is the most popular software wallet. Really, really, really interesting. So we could take a look at Linea. We could pull it up and break it down a little bit. Let's go into the charts. Okay, here we go. Here's Linea, at least on Binance, kind of showing the price of Linea. Had a big rally up to about 43 cents and has just been consolidating since. So the question traders and investors might be wondering, is Linea going to pull downwards? Is it going to have one of those launch pumps where the price is now going to fall down here and kind of clear up this imbalance? Or is it going to be one of those super strong launches that is actually going to break to the upside from this consolidation? But I would say the biggest thing is that partnership with Swift, created by Coinsys, that is a monster fundamental there. So we can actually look into the project itself. Let's go to CoinMarketCap. Let's look at Linea. So Linea is now the 132nd largest cryptocurrency. Actually, not too large, right? For that sort of partnership. It's only sitting at it's under $1 billion market cap right now, $1 billion market cap. In terms of the supply, there's 72 billion Linea, so it looks like there's a cap supply. And in circulation, there's about 15 billion, so about 21% is out in the market. It's its own layer 1 blockchain. If we go to the website, oh, maybe I guess it's a layer 2. Interesting. Yeah, that's right, a layer 2. Building the L2 where Ethereum wins. Bootstrapped by Coinsys, which is the creators of MetaMask. Guess it has some sort of Swiss partners. But really interesting. Oh wait, what's this? I'd say definitely the Swift partnership is the biggest one. I think a lot of people thought XRP was going to be part of that partnership. Maybe they are at some point, but it looks like Linea. Very, very interesting. Let's look on the About section here on CoinMarketCap. Let's see what it says. Okay. Layer 2 to strengthen the Ethereum network. Has native yield. Zero knowledge technologies. Nothing, anything special there. It's just a regular layer 2, essentially, in terms of the description. R&D happened all the way back in 2019. That's pretty crazy. The mainnet went live in 2023. What? Oh, okay, the Linea token was developed in 2025. %, directed towards ecosystem growth. There looks like there's a pretty crazy burn mechanism. 80% of net transaction fees are permanently removed from circulation, so it's kind of a deflationary mechanism. Interesting. Yeah, it's a looks like a pretty straightforward layer 2 scaling solution on Ethereum, but it looks like they're partnered with Swift, which is just nuts. Let me know if you guys have questions there. All right, next piece of news is Circle, which they have created the coin, the stablecoin USDC. It's the second largest stablecoin in cryptocurrency. This is a centralized coin, and what they're doing is they're creating a reversibility feature. So this reversibility feature, pretty straightforward, is that they could actually reverse transactions. Now, there's some debate on this kind of stuff. One of the things that cryptocurrency, I guess, is known for is the immutability of transactions, meaning if a transaction is sent, it's sent. This means that like a central authority can't intervene inside these transactions. Now, of course, the pros of that is that it's completely decentralized. You know, people can make these transactions and not worry about somebody blocking that transaction. But the second piece is if there is a mistaken transaction, a fraudulent transaction, that's where the issues happen. If you can't really trust that your cryptocurrency, if sent to the wrong place, can come back to you, that's a huge risk. So I think there's going to be a use case for reversibility. I think there's going to be blockchains that have immutable transactions and then blockchains that have reversible transactions. Makes sense to me. The key is that there's options for both. Okay, so that's all I had from a news perspective. The market is kind of just really in that questionable mode after interest rates dropped. So we'll dive into the charts and see what we can find here. Okay. What is that an alert on? Oh, synthetics. So first things first, I want to dive into the total crypto market to get an idea of what we could potentially be seeing through looking at the market index as a whole. Very key thing here is just like people look at the S&P 500 or whatever index for stocks, I think there is benefits in looking at the index for cryptocurrencies so you can get an idea of what the market is doing as a whole. So one potential scenario that I could maybe see here is back here in late 2024, early 2025, this was the market cycle highs. And since then, the market has made a full U-shaped recovery and has broken out the top of these highs. So there is a theory in technical analysis. This is actually what we would call resistance. A lot of times when resistance is broken to the upside, that resistance then turns into support. So some traders, some investors might be thinking that this prior resistance over here in the red is flipping as support in the green here. And we can see we kind of have these three bottoms here. So there's this potential triple bottom. And even looking at the daily chart, we're seeing that there is a decent rally off of this bottom. We have a bullish engulfing yesterday. The market is starting to push up a little bit today. So will that level hold? Will the 2025 neckline hold, or will it not? That's probably the big question. Let's see here if I have anything to say on that. No, I think we're good there. I guess we could zoom out just a little bit. The weekly trend line, that line is still intact. You can see on weekly level, obviously the market is in an uptrend, but there's this huge gap here, right? If the market does come down, it could easily have a pretty large drop to hit that uptrend, the macro uptrend. Another chart, and actually, I think these charts are relatively new. I don't know if I've been just had my head in the clouds or something, but there are now all the total charts with ES at the end. Not sure if you guys can see that, total ES. So total ES, anything with ES is excluding stable coins. Now, it's not like a crazy big difference, but if you do want to see the crypto market excluding stable coins, because stable coins are essentially something that a lot of times traders and investors go into to protect themselves if the crypto market is going to go to the downside, right? They're going to sell out of their cryptocurrency, go into stable coins. So if you want to see the growth of actual like coins themselves that are not stable coins, you look at the total ES chart. Or the total 2 ES chart, or the total 3 ES chart. These are kind of interesting to look at, but relatively the same story that you're going to see, but sometimes it could be nice to cut out stable coins so you can just be sure it is pure cryptocurrency. So if we look at the total crypto market excluding stable coins, let me get a better color for this. All right, we'll just do my classic pink. So this is the 2025 high, and we can see that the market, even excluding stable coins, is starting to hold support on the top of that 2025 market cycle high. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Another one that traders and investors could look at is the total 2 chart. Actually, let's go back to the total chart. Actually, I want to look on the daily time frame and show you guys something. So this actually doesn't look too bad in terms of a recovery. If we're looking at this green moving average really quick, that is the 50 period exponential moving average. So it's the 50-day moving average. This has actually served as kind of this dynamic level of support. The market did break below this key moving average, but now it's actually coming back above the 50. So that could be a potential sign of recovery, having that moving average claimed. Even on total 2 or total 2 ES, could potentially be seeing the market claim that moving average. Still below the 20 EMA though. And the biggie here with the total, either total 2 or total 3 ES. And I don't want to confuse you guys like crazy. All we know is we're getting closer to the actual 2021 highs for a lot of these. So if we're looking at the total crypto market excluding Bitcoin, this could be the altcoin market. Hasn't gotten above just yet, but if we do see that the altcoin market does get above its 2021 bull market highs, that's going to be all-time highs for the altcoin market, and that could be potentially bullish for the space. But if we go down to like a smaller time frame, say the daily time frame, if we're looking at the altcoin market, the total 2 market, you can see that the daily trend has been broken for altcoins. We're seeing altcoins push down. So definitely would want to see the market start to recover a little bit more to give more of a go-ahead that altcoins are solid. There could have been a little bit of a liquidity sweep, though. You can see right kind of here. The market goes down, sweeps these lows, and is coming back in to that range. That could potentially be a sign of strength as well. Okay, let's look into a few things here. For one, let's look at Bitcoin. If we take a look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin had this nice cup with handle breakout. Really, really beautiful there, around that 109,500-ish or 109,400-ish. And since then has came back down to that 109 level. Had this double bottom right here. And curious if this is going to be some sort of bull flag breakout again for Bitcoin or not. Could we potentially see the breakout for Bitcoin? Some people do put this, we were looking at before, the global liquidity index offset. So if we throw this global liquidity index offset, we can kind of see if this is still matching up or not. See that it's a 108-day offset, by the way, I guess that people are using. See, as the liquidity 108 days offset ahead is pretty much following Bitcoin really nicely. This dip was followed really nicely. There was a rally. And now there's a little bit of divergence here. Global liquidity is pushing up and Bitcoin kind of pushed down. So are we going to potentially see the market pull up with the global liquidity offset or not? But here's a little bit of the sketchy news. If we're looking at this offset, we can see here that the high of the global liquidity index puts us at basically October 17th. That's not too far away. That's 18 days away. And at that point, you can see here that the global liquidity is now trending downwards. So could that be to where we're going to see Bitcoin in the crypto market potentially trend upwards for a little bit into around October 17th and then pull down all the way through the end of the year? Who knows? This is just one indication. It has been following this pretty closely, but we'll have to see. It actually follows the total crypto market pretty well as well. So we can see here the global liquidity offset pushing up. There's that dip, kind of this other dip, follows this dip perfectly. Could we potentially see the crypto market push up here, breaking new highs, and then pulling back down? This wouldn't contradict October. I guess maybe, yeah, you're right. At the end of October, yeah, that would this dip at the bottom. Actually, let's see here. That's yeah, at the end of October, it'd still be up from current prices at the end of October. So really interesting. I definitely think that's pretty interesting. Not sure if that's going to be how the market pans out. It's kind of like a dud kind of end of the year, if you ask me. So we'll see if that's the case. But at least it's pushing up for the next few weeks here. Okay, let's take a look at ETH. So something I had marked up was ETH had this daily imbalance. You can see here, this is the last high for ETH. Then ETH pushed through this. Actually kind of pushed through this like this, made this imbalance. There's the next high, so there's this gap. ETH actually tagged this gap perfectly and is pushing out. Could that be the imbalance fill for ETH? Is ETH going to start trending up from here? We will have to see, but that was definitely kind of like a glaring imbalance. But I'd say the biggie for ETH is very, very simple. This is, I think, is like the best altcoin season indicator is the 2021 all-time highs. So you can see ETH here around 48.50. ETH tried to probe up above this, but fell. And even this might, let's see if let's put that global liquidity offset on here again. So check out this. Like, could this be kind of the exact scenario? Where ETH could be pushing up right here to its highs again and then pulling back down, potentially. Let me know if you guys have any questions there. All right, next thing I'm looking at is the equities market. So equities have been rallying, but they could be, this is kind of like an initial sign. We could see the S&P 500 potentially putting in a lower high here, but that's just on a 4-hour chart. So we'll have to see if equities continue to rally. They've been actually rallying pretty nicely on the interest rate news. But the big one that I'm a little interested in is the VIX. So for those of you guys who don't know what the VIX is, this is the S&P 500 volatility index. So this index here, like for example, we could even just put crypto on this too. So let's overlay crypto on top. Just to show you guys the correlation. So you can see here, typically when this index is moving up, crypto is pushing down, and when this index is pushing down, crypto is pushing up. Okay, it's typically inverse to cryptocurrency. Same thing with the stock market. The stock market is pushing down, typically crypto is pushing down too. But the interesting one that I'm looking at here when it comes to the VIX is you can kind of see these moving averages. On the longer term moving average, yes, what is that? yes, the prices are going down on the VIX, or the index is going down, but we can see here that the 20 EMA is actually starting to cross potentially back up. We're starting to see the index start to bottom a little bit. Could it be potentially moving to the upside? That would be something to definitely pay attention to. Like here, VIX coming down, then pushing up, right? Coming down, then pushing up. That is a biggie to kind of pay attention to if the VIX is going to turn to the upside. So we just want to be aware of this kind of stuff, right? And I guess another big risk off indicator too is risk on indicator is going to be, risk off indicator is going to be gold. Gold is just rallying to the moon right now after this symmetrical triangle breakout. So could there be potentially something on the horizon? We'll have to see. Okay, we just kind of want to be aware of this stuff. But I'll go ahead and pause there. I know we went over a lot. Let me know any questions that you have on kind of the macro side of things. Overlay Bitcoin on gold? Sure. Actually, it's funny. I was Bitcoin versus gold. So there you go. You can overlay Bitcoin on gold just like this. You're just going to type it in, BTC USD divided by gold. It looks like Bitcoin is outperforming gold, right? Kind of right here. This could maybe show a potential rally of Bitcoin against gold. So really interesting. Or of course, there could be the break, right? You know, when people draw trend lines, you got to realize we need to wait to see the confirmation. So there's not really a bounce just yet. Do I ever look at the dollar index? Yes. So dollar index is typically inversely correlated to risk assets as well. And one thing that we're seeing right now with the dollar index is that the dollar index is starting to roll over bearish. That should be positive for the risk asset space, as we can see here. Dollar index is definitely starting to trend downwards. And we have the key moving averages starting to roll over. That's even on the weekly time frame. If you go to the daily time frame, even pretty bearish picture for the dollar, all trending down pretty nicely. Could that translate into risk assets? We will have to see. So really interesting stuff in these markets. This is not the easiest market to be in just yet. Of course, as the market starts to develop, things can be, obviously get a little bit more clear. And we're coming into the end of the month here as well. We have 2 days until October. So definitely expect volatility at the end of the month. It's really hard to have some huge conviction plays, when there's a month crossover. So a little bit of grace definitely needed in these markets. The biggest thing I'm going to be looking for is if we can actually see the market rally out of this big consolidation here. If we're looking at the total crypto market, The market has just literally been going sideways since July. That's kind of difficult, right? So we have this sideways market all the way from the middle of the year. Are we actually going to see the market break to the upside at some point? Or is it just going to be chop city? And the question you guys might have is like, well, what do I do in some sort of like choppy market like this? There's a lot of things that you can do. What I do is just be a little bit more conservative. That's one of the things that I do. B is typically, even in a choppy market, there are projects that do well, right? We've seen new project launches, new narratives in the market that people kind of stick to. So one of the things that I try to do is, if you are in a choppy market, start to look at the different narratives in the space. And right now, it's the decentralized exchanges. You'll see a lot of these projects pushing up, like Aster, etc. So one of them that, let's actually see if we can find a few that have already pushed up. So, I mean, the first one is Hype, right? That was the big perpetual exchange. Hype had this huge rally to the upside all the way since April. Really, really big move. Actually, Hyper looks like it could be breaking down here a little bit. Aster had a really aggressive move to the upside when it got listed. CZ was backing it. And potentially some other perpetual exchanges are kind of on the horizon. For example, I'm looking a little bit at Drift. So Drift is a perpetual exchange, and Drift is kind of making a base right now. Looking here on the weekly time frame, could Drift be potentially getting ready to break out and follow that narrative? If the macro side holds, maybe that narrative is still going to be popular. Order is one that people were looking at too. This has basically helped. I think it's like an aggregator of perpetual exchanges. And over the last few weeks, basically, Order has pushed up to its highs about 200%, but sitting up about 164% over the last few weeks. So these are the things that you can kind of look into in these choppy markets: is what is the narrative, and are there any good setups for that narrative? So what I would do in that instance is I would go to, say, CoinMarketCap. CoinMarketCap is like the white pages or the yellow pages of crypto. And then you can go to where it says cryptocurrencies, and you can go to categories. You can filter on whatever, but what we're going to want to find is, I think, something like perpetual exchanges. There's derivatives. That could be a good one. So let's just go to derivatives. That's pretty much going to be solid. So here we go. We have them right here. We have Hyperliquid, we have Aster, we have MYX. MYX is a great example too. You got to know the term narrative. Narrative is basically what the story is. It is in what's the next thing in crypto. So MYX was crazy, right? I think it was Zoe who was pointing this one out when I was just rallying like crazy. But you can see MYX, up like 25,000%. Craziness from just back here in August 2025. So even in these choppy markets, there can be life-changing opportunities in crypto. It's not obviously as common, but this is where these narratives are helpful. And if the narrative is still hot, then there still can be potential. So I'm going to share this with you guys so you have it. And do know that narratives do change. You know, if say, who knows, say maybe Hyperliquid tanks or something like that, that could be maybe a top signal that the narrative is changing. Synthetics is another one that I'm kind of looking at a little bit. There we go. We have Drift. Avantis is new. That's on base. That's been doing really well. There we go. We just saw Orderly. Avio, or whatever you call it, Avo. I was looking at that a little bit. Bluefin. So there's a lot of these that you can start to look at for potential until that narrative, I guess, wears off. Let me know if you guys have questions there, and hopefully that was helpful. That was a big gem right there. So, for example, I was just looking at Synthetics, which is like one of the OG derivatives protocols. I believe it's on Ethereum. Oops, sorry, that's on X. So there we go. Synthetics has pushed up about 74%. We can look at volume. There's a lot of volume coming into the right-hand side of Synthetics. You know, it's starting to break above its 50-week moving average. Could Synthetics, and look at this. Look at this is Synthetics on Binance. Look at how crazy this volume is. This volume is greater than all of the volume since 2021 on Binance. So could that be significant? It very well could be. The only thing that I'm pretty concerned about with Synthetics is it's in a pretty serious downtrend, if you guys can see that. This is why I always like to zoom out. I mean, look at this. This is just like a monster downtrend. So even though we're seeing Synthetics start to break out, could we see some potential resistance up here? Right? Off that downtrend. It's not a crazy move if we do the measurement. You know, that's like 25% more. So another good gem. And of course, these trends can be broken and all that stuff, but zoom out. You know, start with the bigger picture, because you might be going long, you know, rowing upstream. rowing you know, with the wind into your sails instead of at your sails. Okay, let me know if you guys have any questions there. And let me know if there are any projects that you want me to go over. One of the ones that have been holding relative strength is Avalanche. This is one of our VIP educational studies. So here there was a nice base breakout, and I'll kind of share with you guys all this stuff. There's a base breakout for Avalanche. Really nice bullish engulfing candle. Avalanche broke out to this key resistance level, and it actually hit resistance kind of around that level and tested the breakout neckline again. So questions that traders, investors might be thinking about is this just a break and a retest for Avalanche, or is Avalanche gonna, you know, come all the way down? But, you know, this is a pretty aggressive sell-off, but still holding relative strength and still holding above its breakout compared to a lot of the market. And this is one of those major layer ones. You know, typically we would see stuff like Ethereum run, Solana, Avalanche, Polkadot, etc. That could be another narrative, is that the big layer ones could be starting to bubble up. Another one that we talked about on this call, we talked about IP a lot. Saw this very aggressive breakout to the upside on IP. No, it was about a little more than that, about 90% breakout out of the neckline and start to fall over, and actually is retesting that neckline. So we're seeing a little bit of a pattern in these markets. A lot of the market right now is retesting its major breakout levels. So if these levels hold, that could be a sign of strength. If they don't hold, sign of weakness. Cool. All right. Any questions here? Now that we're kind of running down to the end of the call. And for those of you guys, I do have a few more spots open for VIP coaching or one-on-one coaching. If you do want actual, basically just me teaching you how to trade very intimately, I do have some spots open. If you do want to apply, just shoot me a DM and I will give you the details. All right, any charts, any questions? Anything that you want to look at, anything you want clarity with? If you guys are feeling good, I'm good as well. So the biggest thing is I'm just waiting, I'm probably going to be waiting for the end of this month. It's not much, there's going to be contract rollover still for the end of this month. We want to see how the beginning of October kind of pans out, all that good stuff. Have I thought about new times for these calls going forward? Yeah, these calls could change. I will be moving to the Philippines. It just depends. So they might be in the afternoon. I actually would like these calls. The Filipino time might actually work really well for this. Asian session is actually one of the more bullish sessions in crypto. So a lot of the strongest breakouts in crypto will happen after the daily close in crypto, which is 7 hours from now. So yeah, whatever 7 hours from now is, that might be the new time for these calls in the next few weeks or months. So just be on the lookout for that. I think it'd be even better than this. Personally, I think New York session is just not, it's my least favorite session to trade crypto. I usually trade an Asian session and catch those bigger moves. All right, let's just do one more. Let's look at XRP. Okay, this is something I've been watching for a little while. We do see a potential cup and handle on XRP. There's no breakout just yet. There are patterns, of course, where this is actually a bearish formation, but it is after a bullish impulse, so it can break out bullish. So we do have this big cup formation for XRP. It broke out. Could we potentially see a breakout at some point for XRP? If it does, would we then potentially see that equal measured move for XRP, which could be something like this? Who knows where the breakout would happen? Let's just put it conservatively around $3. That would take XRP closer to $4 to $4.4. Not a guarantee, of course, but if the equal measure move happens. Cool. Any other questions? Are we all feeling good? I'd say the key takeaways is A, it's the end of the month. B, the market has just been very choppy. So actually seeing the market become more directional will probably be helpful. And then C, even when the market is choppy, there are narratives. So if you are looking for what's going to potentially perform best, you want to look on X, you want to look at what's breaking out. If you see patterns, okay, perpetual exchanges are breaking out, that's probably the narrative. Start to dive into those projects, go into CoinMarketCap, look at the categories, see which projects, if you do find some sort of trend of breakout after breakout after breakout, see if maybe you can find a similar pattern and see if you're going to find maybe the next potential breakout. Cool. Beautiful. And for me, I could definitely I'm going to be looking at Drift. Drift is a perpetual exchange. We do have this base like we talked about on Drift. Could Drift be making some sort of, who knows what you want to call it, some bullish breakout here, but hasn't broken out of the base necessarily. But Drift is starting to turn around, and it does fit the narrative of the perpetual exchanges. Beautiful. Alrighty, well, let's have an amazing week, guys. Let's get to the end of the month here. Let's see how October pans out. Oh yeah, another thing, global liquidity does look like the index offset could put us bullish towards the 17th. So we'll see if that happens. And if it is the case, we're going to definitely want to look out around that 17th-ish mark midway through this month to see if we are going to see some sort of pullback in the market. Cool. Appreciate you guys a ton. Thank you guys for hopping on. I will see you guys next week. And of course, you guys know where to find me in the platform. Let's keep crushing it. I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.